Good morning, everybody. But let's talk about this today. We're going to talk about safety technology. Um, some people are familiar with the products. I'd love to know if you're familiar with these products. With all the important electronic equipment that they sell in the market today, and you just saw the video from Full Protection, they do their job very well. They have very sensitive electronic equipment, PC boards that can get damaged easy. So sometimes they're going to need extra protection. Their job is electronics, processing video, processing information about alarms and fire alarms and so forth. Their job is not necessarily to protect against the environment, against vandalism. So that's where STI, safety technology, comes in. They're a factory that design and manufacture protective covers, wire cages, alarms, multi-use buttons. And it's important that we put it in the right perspective because all these accessories, and that's what I'm going to call them, help your system to function better. Make sure that you can avoid false alarms or accidental damage or environmental damage. And all at the same time, they're helping you increase your sale. They're helping you maximize your sale because there's something that's really very true in our business. Your best customer is the customer you already have. We always think there's another project out there, bigger project, a more profitable project. But in reality, our best customer is the one we have. So let's talk about how we can work with that best customer we have. So here's some products you may be familiar with. Stopper 2. I think the Stopper 2 was probably invented about 40 or 50 years ago. It was invented because there was a problem in schools of false alarms. Students would pull that fire alarm. And at that point, they had to leave the class, leave the building. And this was not for 5 minutes. It was a half an hour, maybe more, before they finally decided it was a false alarm. So the folks at Safety Technology invented the device you're looking at today. And it did a really good job. It was able to bring down and almost eliminate most of those false alarms. Sometimes false alarms happen because of somebody wants to do something malicious. Sometimes it's an accident. Person cleaning happens to pull down on that fire alarm station. Now, this Stopper 2 we're looking at, that's the original series. Still available, still doing a great job. But I want to introduce you to something new. So on the left, you're seeing that, I'm going to call it the 1000 series because everything is in that number of digits. It's the 1100, the 1200, the 1130. It's all in the thousands. And you'll see a little cable hanging down. It's because the way this works is when you pull that cover, boop, it falls down. It doesn't hit the ground because that cable keeps it up. That gives you access to the pull station. You can pull it. But the ones I want you to pay attention to are the ones on the right, the 13,000 series as well as the 14,000 series. 13,000 series is concave, so it's rounded on the outside. It's low profile. You can see the size is smaller. It's a little bit more aesthetic, if you ask me. It uses a hinge, so it doesn't have that cable. It's easier to get access to that pull station. Good for interior or exterior. Now, the one on the right, the 14,000 series, does all that, except has a flat top, so the appearance is even lower profile. And end users like that. They don't need something super huge to protect that that pull station. By the way, I should correct myself. We're not protecting the pull station. We're eliminating false alarms. It should be noted that all these protectors are available in with or without a siren. If you ask me, my preference is to have that siren. Why? Because I want to deter a false alarm. If somebody's malicious and they pick up that cover and a siren goes off, chances are they're going to let it go. They're not going to get all the way to that pull station. They're not going to cause that false alarm. Now, there's a lot of different options as far as this goes, and you can design all this on a web page that we have. So you can actually choose the functionality you need. But let's move on. So we often talk about protecting pull stations, but there are many other pieces of electronic equipment that need uh, protection. Could be a keypad, could be a button, it could be some sort of electronic control, mini control panel. So if it's not fire, and typically we use red for fire, we have a series of other colors. So not is it only another color, which is important because color is one of the first things that we recognize. So that's good for your end user. Remember, at the end of the day, we're here trying to help you maximize your sale. So different colors are good because a worker is going to remember where the yellow protector was, where the green one was, where the blue one is. And the message can be different because you may want this to protect something in certain circumstances. So you're going to put a little message there. And you don't get penalized for asking for a special product. The minimum order is one piece, obviously. And at that point, you can get something exactly as your customer needs it. You know, many times, whether it's accidents, sometimes vandalism in schools, in different neighborhoods, it's a problem. People are destroying equipment just for the fun of it. Well, when you start destroying equipment that's connected to a fire alarm, that's a big problem. It's a big problem because that alarm is going to give you a trouble. It's going to go beep, beep, beep. People don't want to hear it. They're going to silence it. And then what happens when the alarm goes off? Well, nothing. So if it's that type of environment where there's vandalism, where there's accidents, it could be a school, it could be a warehouse where workers are maybe a little bit careless. Here is an option to protect those pieces of equipment, whether it's a strobe, a siren, um, uh, or other devices that they have out there. You know, we have them from polycarbonate. And obviously, if it's polycarbonate, if it's for audio and visual, we definitely want to have some openings in the polycarbonate. Otherwise, the sound doesn't get out. Many times when it's sound, people will use those metal wire cages that you're looking at. And those wire cages are very strong. It's a 9 gauge steel, which is wrapped in polyester, and that's just so it's a little bit more aesthetically pleasing. You don't want something looking rusty in a building. Now, am I saying this goes for every single horn strobe? No, but certain of them are. And each time you offer it to a customer, you're maximizing your sale. So, aside from the notification devices, how about the smoke detectors? Once again, whether it's vandalism, whether it's accident, if somebody hits it with a pole, with a high-low, with a piece of equipment, it's a problem. And there's different ones available. Don't think there's only one model. One of the things that STI does very well is they listen to customers. Customers have given us feedback. So there's different models depending what your use is. Maybe it's stainless steel. Maybe it's that 9 gauge wire I spoke about with polyester. Maybe it's polycarbonate. For whatever reason, you have a choice, and this gives you an idea. Incidentally, one of the things I always recommend to people, please remember this. Many customers aren't going to realize this exists. They just think, this is a problem I have to live with. The students are throwing basketballs at the smoke detectors and breaking them. Isn't that fun? But here's a place if you see problems, when you're doing your walkthrough, you simply say to a customer, you know, do you think you need protection on that smoke detector from possible vandalism or accidental damage? Your customer's going to answer yes or no. By the way, at that point, maybe you made him think of something else because you've just offered him protection against vandalism, accidents, or the environment, whether it's rain, moisture, dirt, chemicals, the list goes on. Obviously, these wire cages are not going to help you in the wind, rain, chemicals part, but I have other pieces that do. Fire extinguishers in many countries controlled by the a safety organization who come in, inspect. They want to make sure you have fire extinguishers in certain places. They want to make sure they're full. If they're not there, you get a fine. More than getting a fine is if that extinguisher disappears for whatever reason, well, then now you don't have a way of putting out the fire. And that's what alarm extinguishers, or that's what extinguishers are for. So here's a little device that is easy to install. It installs right next to the extinguisher. It allows full access to that extinguisher. You can pick it up, you can take it out, you can put out a fire without a problem. But the moment you do, if you look at that little cable that goes into the alarm, once it comes out, the alarm goes off. So now you're letting management know. Now you're letting coworkers know, hey, somebody's taking the fire extinguisher. It's one of those items, if you don't offer it, customers aren't going to think it's important. Maybe it's to help prevent theft. Maybe it's just so that they get notified that, yeah, somebody's using that fire extinguisher, which is one of two things. Either they're putting it in their car so they can have it at their house, or they're putting out a fire. Both of those are good reasons for management to know. I have a similar device, and this is for exit. There's a lot of emergency exits in buildings. Typically, they're there by law. And many times people will use them as shortcuts to get out to the parking lot, to do whatever it is they have to do. Many times they will prop that door open, by the way, with a fire extinguisher, so that they can go back and forth nice and easy. Unfortunately, this is a place where merchandise can go out that same door. So some frustrated owners have solved their problems by putting a chain and a padlock on the outside of the door. So this is no longer an emergency exit. And you probably have heard the stories that I've heard, which are stories of a bunch of people in a building, fire comes out, they go to get out the door and they can't because the owner, in his frustration, has put a chain and padlock, and they end up dying. So here's a way to control the traffic, notify personnel that somebody's using the door, but still have your exit, your emergency exit. This goes right on the door. There's a little magnetic contact that comes with it that goes on the frame of the door. Since it's powered by a 9-volt battery, as soon as somebody opens it up, you have 105 decibels of siren going off. It also blinks. So this is a way to let people know, hey, somebody's using that door. If they're supposed to use it, no problem. You can always bypass the alarm. But if they're not supposed to use it, then you want to know. It's a nice, easy product to offer to your customer. And many times they don't realize that it exists. Hey, Mr. Customer, I see this is an emergency exit. Do you have problems with traffic control? People using the door that shouldn't use it? I have a nice, easy solution for that so that they still have an emergency exit. You still comply with the law, but you stop the bad traffic. Are you interested? Yes or no? You know, as the fire alarm business goes on, we're all used to those pull stations and they do a great job. So I just present this because it's another option. You know, aesthetics has a lot to do with the sale of your product. Manufacturers have made their products more appealing, more eye appealing. You can't always have those big clunky keypads that we used to have years ago. So here's an option for you to consider. Instead of a pull station, there's a fire alarm button. And as far as sprinklers go, maybe you do not install sprinklers, and that's okay. But there's no reason you can't offer an emergency shutoff tool. Because how does this tool work? Imagine you're in a hotel, somebody hooks their clothing on that sprinkler, and all of a sudden, about 20 gallons a minute start coming out of that sprinkler. You can imagine the damage that can be done to the carpet, to the bed, to the sofa, to the furniture, everything in that room. And it comes out at high pressure. So you're probably going to um, take off any wall covering that's there and fully soak the sheetrock. So basically, you've destroyed the room and you're on your way to destroying the rooms below. So what do? You try to find the guy who knows where the main shutoff is. And by the way, when you use that main shutoff, you've just turned off your sprinkler system. Or you offer these tools. This tool basically is one-handed operation. You go up to that sprinkler where the water's coming out, put it on, release it, and at that point, you shut off the water. Works on sprinklers that are from a half inch to 3/4 of an inch. That's the majority of them. And it comes in this polycarbonate cover so that you can put it in a central place and yet still have access to it, still let people see that it's there. And I don't mean, your customers. This is for your maintenance people. This is for the personnel of a hotel, of a department store. They know where this device is because at 20 gallons a minute, you want to get this device really quick and put it on the sprinkler. For you, it's an extra sale. It's the ability to maximize your sale with an existing customer. By the way, you're noticing here, I'm not giving you any part numbers because I would probably forget them too. But I think the point of this little session we have today is give you some ideas and hopefully, the light bulb goes off and you say, wow, okay, these are things I can offer my customer. You can look at our website. You can get more information. You can speak to the folks at Full Protection, or you can speak to us here at International W. We're happy to help when you choose it. There's different configurators, I'm going to call them that, online that help you choose buttons, functionality, color, mounting. So, getting back to fire systems, one of the things we often see is those little European boxes, those plastic boxes that sort of simulate a break glass. Well, safety technology has taken that idea and they've changed it just a little bit. Number one, instead of this itsy bitsy box, they've made it a little bit bigger. And they've made the mounting options better. This can mount on a single gang, on a European box, on a double gang box. So that makes your job easier. It works the same. It's the idea of a break glass. You press that button, you're not breaking any glass, but now you have a latching alarm that you reset with a key if necessary. You can get a polycarbonate front on it, so to avoid accidental activation. We don't want things like that. So just another option, depending the aesthetic you want to offer to your customer. The funny thing as I'm in the shows and I'll go through the products that we offer, many people will say, hey, I didn't know you did that, which is a shame because we've been doing this for about 48, 50 years. Everybody thinks we just do the stopper too. That first slide that we saw. But there's a lot of other products. And Each of these products is an opportunity to maximize your sale, but it's not selling for the point of selling. It's selling because you're in the business of selling protection. And we should not put the blinders on thinking, oh no, I only sell electronic protection. No, sometimes you need physical protection. And that's what this is. We're not selling guards here, right? So the Enviro Armor cabinets, these are NEMA 4X cabinets, non-metallic. Could be fiberglass, could be polycarbonate, different sizes, different options, whether it's a clear front, whether it's a tinted front. Do you need to see the equipment in there? And here's a way you can protect it against water, against dust, against harmful chemicals, against vandalism. And once again, do you need to see it, or are you better off with an opaque front? You don't have to see it. You just need to protect it. So only the right people get to that. You know, it's amazing the dirty environments that are out there, especially in industrial applications. Makes it very difficult for electronic equipment to function correctly all the time. So that's something to think about. So, hey, that's nice, a little polycarbonate or fiberglass box, but how about if I need accessories? Like a back plate, because you want to mount everything nicely so it's organized so your technicians can get to it if they need to troubleshoot. Maybe you need heaters or thermostats to get rid of excess moisture that might build up there. Moisture is not one of the friends of electronic equipment, as you know. Pole mounts. Hey, how many times are we seeing with city surveillance that you need a switch and AC and perhaps other modules to be mounted on the same pole as your cameras and or your IP speaker? Well, we can pole mount these too. Vents, if you want to get some ventilation. And if it's in very severe conditions, we can even give you air conditioning. So we have the different sizes of boxes. We have all the accessories you're going to need. You know, one thing just recently introduced are the powered cabinets. At the end of the day, you probably are going to need power, right? You're not just putting things in a box. There's electric coming in, maybe there's fiber coming in. So here you have a DIN rail, and you can order this depending on what you need with fans, filter fans with vents, with DIN rail distribution, with 110 double duplex connectors. So you can plug in your equipment and keep it orderly. And they've done it for you. So all you do is ask for one part number. It comes ready for you to install your equipment. Important? I think so. We're seeing more and more jobs where this is becoming an option. You know, up till now, I've been talking about IP 4X, NEMA 4X. So NEMA 4X is not always what you need. You know, many times you can get away with what's called IP 54. If we say NEMA 4X is like IP 66, so here's IP 54. And many times we will go right to the top, right to the most expensive. Why? Because we know it's going to do the job. But once we understand our environment, we could probably offer the customer something else. So if I talk about IP 54, and here I have different sizes available, as you can see, the 5 stands for the dust protection. So, you know, the entry of dust cannot always be avoided, but you want it to be curtailed enough so that it does not interrupt the proper functioning of the equipment. If you get too much dust too quick, well, then your equipment's going to get hot, overheat, malfunction. So that number 5 protection keeps dust out. 100%? No. I can't give an exact percentage, but enough so that your equipment is always functioning properly. The 4 has to do with water. And here it's resistant to sprays of water from any direction. probably going to cover most of your needs. So here's a series of cabinets you want to think of from Safety Technology. Now, sometimes we need a mega cabinet. Now, this one measures 48 inches high, 36 wide, and 12 inches deep. So typically, if you need to put, maybe it's a fire panel in a place where you know the moisture is going to get to it, it's going to deteriorate, it's going to rust, it's going to stop working. Now the guy has to buy a new panel. So here's a way to protect that. Maybe it's medical equipment. Any equipment that's going to be put in an environment that is subject to damage, that could be physical damage, could be somebody tampering with it, could be environmental damage, moisture, dust, the list goes on. So, probably not one of your everyday products, but good to know that it does exist. I think one of the biggest sellers that we've had in recent years are the buttons. So, yeah, now it's time to button up, and it is amazing um, all the functionality where you require a button. So part of what makes the buttons here unique, it's going to be the color, the messaging. Once again, we can do our messaging just like we can in other products. Specialized, one piece, you're good to go. Give the customer exactly what he wants. Change the color. Not everything has to be red, people. Okay? Different colors will be recognized for different functionality. Emergency power shutoff, an abort for a pump, turning off air conditioning, HVAC. The list goes on. You can see some of our messaging on the website. It's right there in our configurator. You can design your own button online. Listen, with so many options, it can get confusing. You're going to choose a color. You're going to choose, hey, what kind of button? Is it a weatherproof button? Is it a button that stays pressed until you reset it? Is it a momentary button? So the list goes on of the options, but it's all for you. All you have to do is click, 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 and choose your options. Give that part number to your salesperson at full protection, and you're good to go. We saw these on the fire side, but they also, this universal reset button, sort of break glass, exists for other things. Once again, HVAC shutdown, evacuation, emergency, the list goes on. So, depending the aesthetic, just so you have another option of what to choose, and one of these might be the one that your customer wants. So it's helping in your sale. No touch buttons. When COVID was at its height, people were very sensitive. In the beginning, we wore gloves. I don't know if you remember that. Aside from masks, we were thinking about all the things we were touching. We were washing our hands, washing our groceries. The list goes on. Don't think that the no touch button is not still very useful, because at the end of the day, COVID has not gone away. It's still here. Unfortunately, people are saying it's something we're going to have to live with. But if we can minimize the effect, if we can get away from some of those buttons, no touch buttons are an option. Depending the size you need, color of LED to give the user some feedback. Hey, did the button activate? And this is something you don't have to press the button. You just simply move your hand in front of the button. So you do reduce germs. It is easy to operate. So many times, we're in the business of selling access control, CCTV, alarms. We don't think of the other things we can sell. Remember, we're cabinets, we're protection. So We don't sell defibrillators, we don't sell first aid kits, but we do sell polycarbonate cabinets that can be centrally mounted in a factory, in an office building, so people know where it is. People have access to it. Worst thing is to buy this emergency equipment and put it in a closet, which is usually locked. Doesn't do people much good when they have to act quickly. And here's a place as you're walking through a factory floor. You could certainly make that suggestion, sir. I see your specialized equipment is lying on the floor there. Do you think it would make more sense to have a transparent polycarbonate cabinet to protect it and yet make it accessible to people? By the way, if you're worried about who's accessing it, you can hook up one of these little strobe sirens that you're looking at. Operates on 9 volts. So when somebody opens it, strobe siren can go off. And now management knows, oops, somebody is taking the medical equipment. I probably have an emergency on my hands. And for you, it's the sale of a cabinet. Your best customer is your existing customer, but keep your eyes open for the opportunities that safety technology can give you. You know, one of my favorite products, believe it or not, is what you're looking at. I like the round guy because it's IP66, means I can use it indoors, outdoors. Choose your color. It's a strobe, it's a siren, it's actually a single zone alarm. Okay, let's think, what do I mean by that? So, if I talk about the tones, there's 32 different tones. I'm going to pick the one I think is best. You know, I don't want everything to sound the same. People aren't going to be able to distinguish between emergencies. As far as strobe patterns, I can change those too. I could, since each of them have their own timer, I could make it strobe only, I can make it siren only, I could make one go off and one stay on. I already mentioned the round one is IP66. You can use this outdoors. You can power it with 12 or 24 volt. It has an input. There's your zone I was telling you about. You can hook this up to a button. You could hook this up to a contact. Any kind of closure you can give me. And guess what? I have an alarm. But wait, there's more. This can operate on a 9-volt battery. So forget about the power supply. Forget about the wiring. I have a button, 9-volt battery. Excuse me, I have my strobe, siren strobe, 9-volt battery, and perhaps a button. Boom, I have an alarm. Maybe I put a next to a magnetic contact on a window, on a door, on a chest of something. Sometimes people are looking for something simple that does the job. This is simple, and yet it does the job. There's a lot of opportunity out for this, where you can just add this siren strobe as an independent system, indoor or outdoor. Keep that one in mind. I think you'll find there's a lot of uses for that. You know, before I was talking about wire cages for strobe horns, notification devices, smoke detectors, but you know, we make it for a lot more. There's other things that get damaged, whether it's clocks, exit site cameras. You know what? I'm always surprised at the amount of people today, because there's so many vandal resistant cameras, and yet the people say, I need your cage to protect my vandal resistant camera. Hey, some neighborhoods are pretty bad. So you want to protect that investment from the casual throwing of a stone or whatever by some vandal. Think about it. That's STI. You know, that was a lot of equipment, 0 part numbers. There's the website down below. You know, take a look at it. Reach out to your salespeople at Full Protection. Reach out to me. I can help. My team can help in defining those models. But the idea here is reduce false alarms. False alarms don't do anybody any good. As a matter of fact, they create a habit of like, oh my goodness, another false alarm. And I've heard of times when people have not reacted to an alarm because there was so many false alarms, and that was the time it was a real alarm. Accidental activation, the cleaning person hitting a pull station, the person, one of the workers coming in, changing something, accidentally hits and breaks one of your pieces of electronic equipment. The environment, there are dirty uh, industrial environments, but you can protect the equipment. Electronic equipment does not like to get a lot of dust on it because then it builds up heat. It does not like moisture. It does not like grease and grime. So it's a product that can be offered with a yes or no question to your customer. Mr. Customer, I see it's kind of dirty in here. Do you think we need protection from this dirty environment for our electronic equipment, which we're putting here? Yes or no? He says no. Okay, you did your job. You offered. It's a very low pressure sale. You don't have to, you know, talk hours and hours about the benefits of protection. You just noticed something, you brought it to his attention, and you let him make the decision. Simply by asking, a certain percentage of people will say yes. You ever go to one of those fast food places for hamburgers? You wanted a hamburger. When you get there, what does the person say? Would you like fries with that? Do you think they ask that because they really care if you want fries? No, they ask that because a certain percentage of people will say yes. And sales is a numbers game. So if you have the eye, you recognize the potential problems, you can offer protective equipment, whether it's polycarbonate, whether it's wire cages, whether it's cabinets NEMA 4. So at the end of the day, not only do you give your customer a more complete solution, but you've increased revenue. Anybody got a problem with increasing revenue? I don't think so. Well then, thank you very much for your attention today. Any questions? Please reach out to your folks at Full Protection. I'm sure they'll be happy to help.